My name is Michael Bennett from K104. We are here with Sammy Adams from RCA joining us here in the studio. Thank you so much, man, for coming by. We appreciate it.
No doubt. Thanks for having us, man.
From Massachusetts, and now you live in New York, right?
Yeah.
So what?
Sort of.
Boston or Yankees? Red Sox or
Boston.
Yeah?
All day, every day.
You haven't converted yet?
No way.
No.
Never will, man.
So the singles, man, are going viral. You got Blow Up, and
Yeah.
then the new one, Only One. The thing that I've figured out by listening to your records is that you infuse so many different styles of music in your songs. Like I heard like the hip hop verses with like the strong pop chorus with dance. Like did you have that in mind going into the studio to kind of like involve all different styles of music?
Yeah. I grew up as a kid, big hip hop head, a big hip hop guy, and then sort of like growing up in public at sports events and places where you're hearing all new types of music, the music my parents played. I've had tons of influences, so making music, when I actually got the confidence to write music and make songs, I was sort of pulling from everyone from like, Canned Heat and the Beatles to like Depeche Mode and Jay-Z.
So you're all over the place.
It's like crazy, but definitely, when we made that song, Only One, it's a very sort of dubby bass with like a big pop hook, and then the verses sort of edge it out with like some rap. So we basically just we're trying to get to the point where we can make our own lane and make our own genre of music that sort of pulls pieces of every other genre out.
That's cool,
that we
man.
like.
Well, let's talk about like your childhood. You said like your father was in a rock and roll band, correct? He played drums.
Yep.
And then your mother did like the backup vocals.
Yeah.
So how did that influence you to make music? Was that a big part of your life growing up?
I mean, yeah, I was always around music. So, I was such an athlete. I was always somewhere playing basketball or off some soccer tournament somewhere. So I wasn't, as into music as I was into athletics. And then I, slowly sort of got back into music when I was in college. Really paid attention to the trends, to sort of what people were listening to, both on pop radio and, at like the popular scenes on campus.
Sure.
Just to sort of have an idea. And then I was sort of like a voice for kids in college, or kids at like colleges like myself, in the Northeast especially. So it was cool because I was sort of like the voice of the youth, and whatever people would complain about classes or complain about something, I would always take it down and
I'll make a record about it.
Yeah, and so you make a record about
That's
it, and
cool.
it's like I was just thinking about it.
That's awesome.
It's like, so it's pretty dope.
So if you weren't doing music, would you be playing soccer right now? Would you be doing something with sports?
I'd imagine so. Probably something with sports. I'm such a competitive guy, so something competitive.
Now, the cool thing that you told me before was that when you got ready for your big game in soccer or whatever, like you would play your music to kind of pump yourself and your teammates up. Like that's a pretty cool involvement. Talk about that a little bit. Like how did that come about?
I mean, just like from any warm-up tape, we used to put a lot of hip-hop on warm-up tapes, and then when I was like 17, 18, I was way more into like EDM and trance music, which wasn't really in at all. Avicii and Skrillex weren't selling out the rooms they are now.
Sure.
Back when I was 16, 17.
Yeah.
So it was sort of new, but seeing people's reactions was really like what sort of made me want to write pop music and sort of just like popular culture music. Because I saw the change from people, only listening to this and then sort of getting into this, and now it's their favorite music. It's like it sort of helped change me as well. So it's been a fun process because I've been a lover of all types of music, and it doesn't have to stop now. So
and that probably inspired you and kind of gave you confidence going forward to see your teammates respond to your music, get equally pumped up about it. So that probably motivated you to go to that next level and say, you know what, I can tour now, I can do this, I can do that. So let's talk about how, your life before your big record deal, RCA.
Right.
And how you kind of came about. Like, I know that you kind of networked and you kind of exposed yourself on Facebook, right? Through like social media.
Tons.
Is that a good way for people that are your age or younger who want to break in the business to kind of do the social media route?
Yeah. The social media route, it's funny because it's sort of like a, staple to getting your music out. That was just the only resource we had. We didn't have we didn't have A&Rs, and we didn't have marketing or promo. It was just two, at that point, loudmouth kid trying to get our music out, spamming everyone's page.
Right.
But it was cool because it was sort of ahead of the curve of the, social media boom that you need as an artist. So it was really natural. It wasn't like click this, and so we get 15 more likes. It was just like, if you like the music, come to the page. By the way, we're doing a show in some small closet with a PA.
Yeah, there's
so
no trickery involved.
Yeah, it was just it's all supernatural. You know, none of our numbers on Twitter or Facebook are juiced or anything or have any bots. It's all, we use that for, you know, our concerts to really get a like measurement of how many kids are going to be in that area or that market. So we've been very smart about how to break down our social media. But yeah, social media is so important for kids, and if you're talented and you know, you're really on it and driven to make it, you have a really good shot, because you know, you just have to be very persistent. It's no one's gonna pick you up the first time they hear you and be like, wow, this kid's gonna break. It's like, it just doesn't work like that. It's like, it's interesting. That's what I had to learn. There's a lot of ins and outs of the industry, especially when you're an indie, you know, you're an indie artist that's trying to build his way up.
Sure.
It's super fun, but it's, keep your eyes open, really pay attention, because if you learn the lessons the first time, you don't have to learn them down the road. So.
Right. And besides the social media route, like, you were telling me how much you've been touring before you even got signed. Like,
absolutely.
You said you did what,
180 shows in a year.
So that's a good way also for someone who wants to, you know, let their voice be heard and kind of build that fan base, that loyal fan base, just to go out and just
go play shows,
go play wherever they'll listen, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, whether it's a basement, you know, performance,
I mean,
or
anywhere, you know, we would play anywhere. It's really just about getting your music out and sort of seeing the crowd's reaction. The best part about us is when we have new songs, we can go play them at a crowd that's, you know, 2,500 people or a sold out crowd somewhere in the country. And we get to play songs, and, you know, you see which song goes off the hardest.
Right.
And which one's like, oh, yeah, that one.
Right, because you're face-to-face with your listener.
Right, and you're right in front of them.
Right.
So it's really interesting, because we get to do that, and we sort of have a leg up on you know, people that are making the music and waiting to drop a single. You know, we play it, so we see the reaction.
Right.
And it's such an amazing feeling when you get it right. You know, like, we're going to radio with Only One, and we play it at shows, and it's like, it's almost like the pre-hook leading up to the chorus is like its own, like, 1, 2, 3, go, and you just jump, and everyone's just like going crazy. So it's a really good feeling when you get that right.
Yeah. So right now, like, the music itself, I was saying how I find it so interesting, the different involvements with the different kind of music, the pop, the rock even. I see a little rock in it, dance. But what I find most interesting is that your actual live performance, there's so much energy, so much enthusiasm that I'm not sure if it's the crowd feeding off of you or you feeding off the crowd, maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, it's both.
But it's a little bit of both. But I think that in itself even sets you apart from a lot of artists that are kind of in this genre, just your enthusiasm and your stage presence. Like, do you find, like, touring and actual performances to be the most fun out of all of this, of the whole music game?
It's really fun. I mean, it's very sort of, for me, it's sort of like therapeutic at this point, because it's, you know, all day you're thinking about how to make the show the best.
Right.
So when you're traveling, well, when we're on the tour bus, I'm sleeping the entire time.
Trying
to. But it's great. You know, like, the live shows they're like that one chance you get to shine, you know? So you really take it, like, super, super seriously. And you can always get better. That's the thing. You know, you do an awesome show, and then the next thing you're like, the best thing about the team is everyone will come up to you and, you know, while the show's over, like, great job. Later on, be like, oh, you know, you missed a word in that line. Like, you missed this, missed that. It's like, come on, dude. Like, but it's cool. Always room for improvement. But
it's like you're having fun. You know what I mean? Like, the audience
like,
can tell you're having
like
fun.
It's like their reactions, you know, obviously spark, you know, your emotion to want to really crush the show even more. When they're chanting your name before you even go on stage, or, you know, right as you get on stage and you hear that big roar, there's really nothing like it. You know, I sort of compare it to, like, scoring a goal in playoffs of soccer or something. But just it's like that feeling that, you know, not many people get to experience. So it's amazing, and we feed off the crowd just as much as they feed off us. You know, which is cool, because sometimes the crowd doesn't feed off you at all, and you have to work and you have to prove yourself.
Do it all yourself.
But, you know, even those situations we like. We like challenges. We're a competitive bunch.
Yeah. And just in your short career, you're how old?
I'm 24.
24. All right. You're the same age as me, except you're touring the world. So it's not quite the same. But in your short career, you've done Bamboozle and Lollapalooza, and you opened for Drake, Nicki Minaj, LMFAO, Ludacris. Like, these are like A plus, musicians and celebrities. Like, do you have to pinch yourself sometimes and say, hey, I'm only 24 years old, yet I'm opening up for some of the biggest acts in the world? Like,
yeah, I mean, no, because I want to be bigger than them.
So you have your goals and your sights set high.
Super, high aspirations, some big goals. But it's really cool to do shows with those guys and talk to them. Especially when you do a couple of shows with them and you catch up and get to chit chat a little bit. But we're just so driven to get to where we are, which is why we took 9-10 months to really get the music right. Which is the most important, which a ton of major artists have sort of said to keep in mind that while you're gonna want everything at once, if your music isn't right, you'll get everything, but your music won't be there yet.
Right. So you've taken a lot of time to make sure you master that.
Yeah, master that and get the producers right and really get the feel of the whole album really right in terms of just being one fluid project where it doesn't go from one song into the next and it's like, wait, is this the same record? Like,
right. So you said the album's actually finished, right? It's in the
done,
can?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So when can we expect that release?
It's probably going to be like late summer, probably late August, early September-ish.
Now, how would you describe that record? Is it kind of like Only One and Blow Up, where it's kind of like infuses all those different types of
It's pretty,
styles?
it's very infused. I mean, it's everything from like, some like acoustic sort of, not to say Everlast, but sort of, acoustic guitars with Everlast E drums.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool, like mellow stuff up to, very tempo, Only One records, like the Found You record we just played
Right.
And a bunch of other ones, like we have a bar anthem and then there's a ballad. It's all types of stuff. So it's a pretty well-rounded in terms of, what we're trying to do. And it's definitely, definitely like a risky thing to go from, just being a hip-hop artist 3 years ago to come out with a pop album, but I think we nailed it. So.
Yeah. So like if anyone said, hey Sammy, like if you could, I don't know, compare yourself to a musician right now that is already like been out there for 5-10 years, who would you say that you most resemble or similar to? Is there anyone, or are you so far away from that you can't compare?
I don't think I'm far away from it. I think it's just a different road. We've been through. We don't have any cosigns. No one's like, we're not on anyone's label. We sort of built it all on our own. So it's so, it sort of just feels rewarding just being, that the indie kid and then going and partnering with a label that we're really happy with. But yeah, I don't know who'd I'd compare myself to, I love Drake. Drake's a huge, I'm a huge fan, big influence. He's smart, comes from, good family. I love his records and his concepts, and his crossover ability is really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know who I'd compare myself to in terms of last 5-10 years. I have to think about that.
But Drake is kind of interesting though, because he has those like hip hop verses with like the mainstream hard hooks that you also have. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're talking about like your live shows before, which are crazy. If you watch the videos on YouTube, like they're viral, so I'm sure you've seen it. The crazy atmosphere, you jumping off stage, platforms, hurting yourself. What is by far the craziest thing that's ever happened to one of your, in one of your shows? Whether it was you or maybe a crazed fan or.
I had a girl faint once.
Really?
That was pretty wild.
Meeting you or during the show? Meeting you?
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Oh, Sammy Adams. She just passed out.
Yeah, she like fell into Alex's arms. So it was pretty wild. But yeah, I jumped off the stage at Bamboozle, and it was like a 16, 17-foot drop, and I jumped off one of the risers. It was like another 5 feet. So that was, I didn't know it was that high. In the air, you can sort of see in my face. I'm like, oh, on the way down. So that was nuts. We've been sort of everywhere. Like when we were in Lollapalooza, we, did a show, and it was 100% raining for 5 hours. So we didn't think anyone would be there.
Right.
Then we get to our stage, and there's like, 6,000 kids all just literally, it looked like the war in Braveheart. Everyone was so muddy and gross. So I like threw a bunch of mud on my face and got on stage. And It was great. It's like a rain party.
That's cool. That's
Fun.
Awesome. Well, that may be something to expect, if you ever do K-Fest or Not So Silent Night in the winter. So the crazy atmosphere and what you bring to the table. So
no doubt.
That's awesome. We wish you all the luck. We appreciate you stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having us, man.
Only One, the new record, of course, Blow Up. I'm sure you've seen.
Absolutely.
And the new album coming very soon.
Yes, sir.
Sammy Adams from RCA. We appreciate it, bro.
Hey,
thanks for stopping by, man.
No doubt, man. Thanks for your time.
That's awesome.